like to welcome you to today's presentation from the town of Plymouth on the COVID-19. This is our daily update. I'm Steve Triffletti, Plymouth Town Moderator. Welcome. Once again, we're joined by a panel of people who are going to be providing information to you today. Each day, we're joined by Selectman Chair Ken Tavares, also by State Representative Matthew Muratore, and today we also have with us Reverend Bill McCoy, Dr. Russell Fry. Also joining us once again, Michelle Bratti is the Director of Elder Affairs. And finally, rounding out today's panel, we have Steve Cole, and he is the Executive Director of the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. We're doing this to provide an opportunity to get verified information from trusted sources. These are people who are involved in the community, either as an official or in another professional capacity. We're going to begin with Selectman Chair Kenneth Tavares, who's going to provide us with an opening statement. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen that I've had the opportunity to speak with this morning, to every member of the board, they send their thoughts to everyone in the community. The board continues to work together from a distance through emails and messaging, and we're very comfortable with the help of PACTV that has been so outstanding in keeping us all connected today as well as the days that are going to follow. Our message today from the board is really borrowed from the Boston Globe, and that is a headline that was in the Globe today that said that social distancing is not emotional distancing. We are emphasizing, and we will continue to do so, that to keep a respectable distance, which is 6 feet from one another, is one way that we are going to minimize what is happening throughout the country. And we are all advocates that you keep your distance, but that doesn't mean you have to withdraw, that you have to go into your home, pull your shades down, and not have communication. We're so fortunate to have Dr. Fry here today that will talk about some of the emotional feelings that all of us are having. I'm going to ask you today that at sometime during the day, make a phone call again. Check on someone you haven't talked to for quite a while. They'll love to hear your voice. We're blessed with so many means of communication today. And I think that all of us in the community are working together. I can't wait to hear the report from Michelle as to the calls that were made yesterday to a number of people in the community. Actually, I didn't know I was so old. I got one of the calls. But then when Larry told me he got a call, it made me feel a lot better.
See, that's a surprise.
It was comforting to know that someone from the town was calling and with a pleasant voice asking, how are you? We're thinking about you. But we can all do that individually, and that's going to be our responsibility. Today is an absolutely beautiful day. The sun is shining. We should get out while the sun is high and be able to walk. Yesterday, my wife and I did this, but we noticed that everyone kept respectable distance as you passed one another on the sidewalk. We can do this. You're not confined to your home. But as a more somber piece of information that I want to pass on to the board today is we had to close the skateboard park. Our young people, as we have mentioned before, need to be reminded that they're probably in a number of cases having contact that is way too close, and the virus is hitting them as well as older people. It's not just the elders of the community. So we've closed the park, not to be mean-spirited, not to cut out something that's a lot of fun, but to keep people from falling ill. So please follow the various guidelines that we have at our parks and open spaces. Together, as I've said for the last several days, we will do this. We can together. We just have to all do our part in maintaining a respectable distance from one another is probably one of the easiest things that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Ken Tavares. He is chair of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen. If you have questions today, you can give us your questions by logging on to PlymouthInfo@pac-tv.org. And when Ken told you about the fact that he spoke to all the selectmen this morning, we want you to know town officials have been in regular contact by phone, by email. We're communicating among ourselves in order to make sure that there's coordination with the messaging and the information that we're providing to you each day. He also talked about not doing emotional distancing, which really leads right into our next guest. Reverend Bill McCoy works locally to support people, and also Bill, and if we can just go to Bill, he's got the stack of bookcases behind him. With bookcase with books, and there he is.
There he is.
So Bill is here, and Bill, normally on a Sunday morning, you and I are together in a church building worshiping. So talk to people about what they can do now in these times, so as to, although they're physically distancing, they can still be together. Kind of what Ken was talking about, and tell us about the support group in which you're involved.
Absolutely. Well, I would recommend getting access through streaming services. There are church services available in that way. There are also online worship places to go through Zoom. But I saw something on the news just yesterday, a priest conducting mass out in a parking lot with cars all around, and he had amplification so he could be heard. But there are ways to be in touch and to gain access to religious services. Steve, you asked about what I do. I have been a pastor in my past, but I'm now a counselor and an advocate. I work through South Shore Resource and Advocacy Center. South Shore Resource and Advocacy Center is primarily a domestic violence agency. A lot of DV advocates who are in courts, provide safe homing for victims, and offer group support as well. It's important to know that currently restraining orders are issued by way of police departments in case of emergencies. And of course, this is a far more dangerous time for victims in abusive relationships because of confinement to home. So I believe there's a number that will be provided for a hotline. I can give you the number of the agency itself. That's 508-746-2664. 746-2664. And there is a hotline, but you can call that number and get access to help 24/7. What I do, as I'm not a domestic violence advocate, but I work for a grant-funded program through the Mass Office of Victim Assistance. I provide free and confidential services for survivors of homicide victims, families, friends, and others who are traumatized by that violent crime. I accompany folks to court. I provide counseling and referrals, and we also provide group support for folks who've been traumatized by homicide. Our program is called SHARES. SHARES stands for Surviving Homicide's Aftermath, Resources, Education, and Support. SHARES covers 2 counties and beyond, actually, but mostly Plymouth and Bristol counties. And again, we're funded by the Mass Office of Victim Assistance, and we are available for home visits, again, accompanying folks to court, and we do what we can to provide moral support to those folks. But as far as churches go, again, there are streaming services, there is online worship through Zoom, and I would ditto what was said earlier about reaching out to anybody you think might be isolated or in need of care. We are not to emotionally distance ourselves or spiritually distance ourselves. Also, have been encouraged, if folks pledge money to support their places of worship, those financial pledges are still needed and can be honored by way of checks in the mail. It's our belief among the clergy and folks active in churches that the mission of the church is always to embody God's love and work for a more compassionate, just, and peaceful world. And of course, that's more critical now than ever, I believe. So I'm glad to be here with you and to remind you that there are ways to stay in touch with your faith communities.
Thank you. That's Reverend Bill McCoy. And Bill, if you can stay with us as we continue with our group. And again, for people who have questions, you can email us at plymouthinfo@pactv.org. And following up on what Bill and Ken said, we have Dr. Russ Fry, and we'd like to welcome Russ. And Russ, what do you have to tell us today?
Well, good morning. Nice of you all to tune in and expecting to answer a few questions and be involved with the psychological well-being of our community as well as our nation. I hear the word anxiety often. I think it's good to look at anxiety as a normal emotional reaction. It's actually defined as a threat to the organism, real or imagined. So we can look at how real this is in creating a great deal of anxiety. And we also have a tendency to imagine how bad it may get. So there's a great deal of anxiety out there, and we'd be willing to address more specifically that as the program continues.
Thank you. Thanks, Russ. So, and we continue on with Michelle, and Michelle is the Director of Elder Affairs, and we've been hearing about reaching out and not being isolated, and you work with our seniors, again, that contact PlymouthInfo@pac-tv.org. So, Michelle, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for having me back. Really happy to be here and to speak to the community. It is about outreach and it is about caring. And as Ken had alluded to earlier, I was able to utilize our computer system through the town and our programming. And I sent a one call, it's called a one call, to 7,300 seniors yesterday. So yes, Ken, you were in there, but we got an opportunity I got to record a message that just said, we're here, we care, we miss you, we're thinking about you. What do you need? How can we help? Also looking to get information out as to such as this, PACTV today, tune in. Seniors want information, they deserve information. And we know that they're isolated. We know that they're feeling lonely. They're the most vulnerable group in terms of this crisis. And we want them to know that we're here. It's important that they hear a voice that says, I hear you, I see you, I'm thinking about you, you're not forgotten. So that you're gonna get some calls from me, probably multiple times during the week. I do want people to know that the call that comes in does come from a Cambridge number, and I want to give you that number. It's 617-397-3800. It may show up on your phone as spam, but listen to the message, you'll hear my voice, and I hope to give you some encouragement as the days go on, and I hope to give you all some information. A reminder to go to our website, the town website, www.plymouth-ma.gov. There is a question and answer section relative to what's going on right now today in our town and around the world. Our town does a great job of keeping that website updated. So information is key. My goal, honestly, as Director of Elder Affairs right now is threefold. Social outreach, checking in with people, identifying our most at risk and those most in need, and Meals on Wheels, making sure that meals are distributed to our seniors. As I said on Friday, we do anywhere from 140 to 160 meals a day to our Plymouth population. There's 17 routes that involves at least 17 volunteer drivers who graciously do this on a daily basis. So really important. We have the community, I said it on Friday, I'm gonna say it again. The community outreach is amazing. I've had so many volunteers offer to do these routes and offer to help in any way that they can. I had Dirty Water Distillery making hand sanitizer for our Meals on Wheels drivers, just so they had something as they delivered those meals. I had Walmart. The general manager at Walmart's amazing. He's reached out to me, Dave Mathers. John Mathers, anything we can do to help. Just a really good outpouring. So we're going to keep doing that and see where we go from there. But those are the three areas that are most important, and be listening for my voice, Plymouth, because I will be calling.
Thank you, Michelle. And again, for people who have questions, and we have questions coming in, you can go to PlymouthInfo@PACTV.org. For those of you that want to watch us live in Plymouth, Verizon Fios, channel 47, Comcast channel 15. I actually had someone who just texted me who was watching us on the live stream at pac-tv.org. He wasn't quite sure if it was live or if it was taped. And so we're doing this live today on Sunday, March 23rd. We began at 12 noon, and this is coming to you live if you're doing the live stream. There is a short delay on the stream of a few seconds. And we're going to continue now with our guests. And our next guest is Steve Cole. He is the Executive Director for the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for having me. I'd like to say it's a pleasure, but I kind of regret that we have to do this. But I have to thank you and those folks at PACTV for making sure that information is getting out, especially at this time.
And Steve, I know you have some graphics today, so we'll put them up when you cue us, but go ahead.
Sure, I can. Let me give some background, at least to the foundation. We're a private nonprofit. We have 13 board members, of whom Ken Tavares and Muratore, who are joining us today, are members. Not to boast because they're here, but I have to say we have the best cross representations of industries. We have folks from state government, local governments, private industry, nonprofits, including members like Amy, who I know has been a frequent guest of the program. Amy Naples from the Chamber. So frankly, what we do is we combine all the arrows that we have in our quiver, and the goal largely is to create or generate activity, and from that activity, development can be had. What we focus on is small business development, workforce development, entrepreneurship, and innovation, which I think now more than ever we are probably going to end up needing. Traditional planning things and economic development things like land use. But also some non-traditional things like marketing, events, and cultural affairs. Mecca, for short. Especially in a tourism town with 400 years of rich history, I think Plymouth deserves some kind of a Mecca strategy, so to speak. I can get into some of that a little bit later on, but I am proud to announce that the foundation sought fit to invest in creating Plymouth's very first poet laureate. Now, that might sound a little less outside or a little more outside of what is normal economic development. But as far as cultural affairs go and tapping into the rich history of Plymouth, the foundation saw fit to, especially during the 400, to create a Plymouth Poet Laureate position. Massachusetts does not have one. We're one of 5 states. And it's the fun 5 states, I might add, too. It's Oz, Pennsylvania, Michigan. And so I'm glad to say that Stephen Delbos, who is a Plymouth resident, who has been pursuing his PhD in Charles University in Prague for the last 10 years. He's recently returned home. And he was one of 4 finalists who I thought were exemplary. And they will be assisting our small businesses. One of the things that we learned in conducting a program like this was that people come out to hear poetry, and they like these kinds of cultural things. So, so my sense is that you'll be seeing more of Stephen Delbos, our new Plymouth Poet Laureate, Dave Kindy, who's a well-known reporter, of course, for Old Colony Memorial. He was a member of our selection panel. He's covered this extensively, and if it hasn't hit yet, I think that you'll be seeing an article from him soon. But Stephen intends to do some things that engage the community during this corona shutdown or lockdown, slowdown online to help engage the community, to make them aware of what businesses are still open and are delivering. I understand there was some talk of perhaps even with Gusto reading new takeout menus online that can be posted on Facebook so that folks can better know what restaurants are doing what services for us still. So that covers a little bit about some of the more traditional and non-traditional things the foundation is working on. But Steve, you did mention some graphs. And yes. So without a breath, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to talk about this company that the foundation has been working with called Buxton. They're a business analytics company. Basically, they buy metadata We all generate what's called metadata with our cell phones, with our credit card transactions. It's not specific. It doesn't say anything about what Stephen Cole necessarily does or buys, but it nonetheless puts me into a category of other folks who are similar in demographics. And it gives us a better understanding of what's happening in real time in the marketplace. And so what we see in the first slide that they had sent to us was a depiction of year over year consumer behavior in things like grocery stores. So you'll see that first slide will show you that the volume of unique GPS device pings inside of Plymouth County grocery stores as of March 17th, 2020 is 72% higher than it was at this time last year. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think that that folks are buying more, corned beef, cabbage than they were last year. This is a pretty good depiction, I think, of consumer behavior in real time. Excuse me. Scrolling to the second slide, you can see that they also measured unique pings from inside Plymouth County restaurants. Now, I want to stress this is all of Plymouth County, but you can see that there was a 13% decrease over the week of March 17th with St. Patty's Day weekend. You can though see that the bar graph shows that, excuse me, although it's a 13% decrease, it's relatively stable when you compare it to over week. And what's more, in talking to the analytics company earlier this morning, they informed me that we're a bit of an anomaly. There's a couple of things we can probably point to, but overall, nationally, there was a 50% decrease over that same year over year. Perhaps because we're enthusiasts about St. Patty's Day, but you can see counting backwards from where those bars are, that the behavior, at least in restaurants, isn't as terribly mitigated as you'd see in some of the earlier fall months or earlier winter months like January. The third slide shows us bar activity using the same methodology. And there's no change year over year. You can see that the last bar, that shows us Tuesday, St. Patty's Day. The one to the left of that shows us Monday. There's a bit of a spike there on Monday. And then it looks like on Sunday, there was a bit of a decline. And then again, on Friday and Saturday, we see more spikes. So as it were, we go this time last year, folks were consuming or at least participating in bar activities in Plymouth County at the same rate that they were last year. And then lastly, we see shopping malls. That's the fourth slide that they sent over to us, and that shows a 38% decrease year over year. And I don't think there's very much uncanny or unexpected information there. But the fact is that Plymouth is actually doing a little bit better than some of the national trends are. That's not to say that we're more susceptible or less susceptible. In fact, all it's to say that at minimally, we are still participating in local economic programs, at least local economic activity. We do see, of course, some things coming from Goldman Sachs with some adjusted numbers showing something as late as Q2 with a 24% ping. 6% decrease in Q1, and they're predicting, of course, a 10% decrease nationally in the month of April alone. So while activity does seem to be slowing down, one of the things I want to point out in showing these slides is that there's companies like Buxton that are giving us on a local level real granular information about how people are responding to this. This information can be shared with small businesses so that they can make other informed decisions. There is also a webinar that will be taking place with this company. They've agreed to make it public. So I did send over that information. If folks are interested in participating, please do feel free to do so. I hope to learn a lot. But this is the kind of real-time information, at least from a business perspective, that we can hope to get to our community so that businesses, as I said, can make real-time decisions.
Thank you, Steve. We'll be coming back to Steve, who is the Executive Director for the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. Now, this particular presentation is coming to you live, and you'll know that because it's not been edited. So when I make a mistake, it's out there. And people are watching. I've gotten quite a few messages about the fact that today is Sunday, March 22nd, despite what I said earlier. And for those of you that are watching and you want to contact us, PlymouthInfo@PACTV.org. And now we're going to go to our State Representative, Matthew Muratore. Matt, welcome.
Good afternoon, Steve. How are you?
Good.
I didn't know you made mistakes. I want to start with some questions that we ended with yesterday with some updates. One of the questions that was asked yesterday had to do with private school employees who do not receive unemployment. Right now, there are no programs for people who are exempt from unemployment. There are people like self-employed people, real estate agents, elected officials, and some others, Catholic school teachers, things like that. However, you're still being encouraged to call the 211, talk to somebody about that, see what other services there are that can be offered through the state to help you out through this crisis. You're also encouraged to still file unemployment anyways. There's a program that's set up for the coronavirus, and there's a checkbox that says because of coronavirus, and it will get you to be able to talk to somebody as well. So it doesn't mean there won't be any programs down the road. There just hasn't been any at this point, but at least call 211, file unemployment anyways, and we are still looking at ways that we can be able to help people under those categories. The next question that came up yesterday had to do with inspections of auto inspections. And so what I want to go through real quickly is if your vehicle inspection expires at the end of this month, March 31st, you have 2 months. You have until May 31st to get it inspected. Same with April. If it's April 30th, then you have till June 30th and so forth. If you were issued a failed inspection sticker, that's due to expire at the end of March, you have until May 31st to get it re-inspected. So that gives you some of the gist of what's happening with the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Everything's being pushed out about 60 days. Of course, all this could be revised at some point to later dates, nothing earlier though, but these will be the dates on that. Any newly registered non-commercial vehicles purchased between March 1st and March 31st, so anytime during the month of March, you have until May 31st to be inspected. And any newly registered non-commercial vehicles purchased between April 1st and April 30th, you'll have till June 30th. So that will give you the update from the perspective of the Registry of the Motor Vehicles and the inspections. Now, for the updates for today from the state perspective, the governor has working with the Army Corps of Engineers and maybe enlisting the National Guard as well to help set up, he's looking at existing facilities that have been closed, healthcare facilities that have been closed, like skilled nursing homes, to see about the possibility of opening them up for healthcare centers. So that's on the table now to try to help with the overcrowding of the current situation in our healthcare providers, particularly hospitals. The testings have increased, as we probably all realize, and with the increase in testing, because we have not just a state lab, but we have private labs as well. With the increase in testing will come increases of cases. There's no doubt about that. But it's good to be able to get this testing capacity. There are now a couple of drive-through facilities that are set up as pilot programs at this point that are being used for emergency basis for testing for people to drive through. And I think you'll be seeing more of those as we move forward. The child care centers, as we all talked about the other day, have been all closed. But as of tomorrow, there'll be 300 that will reopen as emergency child care centers that will be drop-off centers. There is a list on the Department of Education website. They'll tell you where actually the centers are located throughout the Commonwealth. I actually posted it on our social media as well. You can go there to find it. And you'll find the local child care centers that are drop-offs. You have to fall into the category of essential personnel. Obviously, healthcare workers and first responders fall under that. But if you work at a grocery store or if you work in some other essential part of the economy that is open, that still needs to be open, you would fall under this category. They are drop-off centers, and you would. There is no payment for these. The Commonwealth is going to be paying for these children to attend, and the purpose of it is to allow people to still be working. So we need to be very careful. It's not going to be a daycare for people that already have places for their children to be on a daily basis. It's really for people that really are having no issue, having full issues with childcare and need support at this point. So that is now in place as well. And also there is additional mass health for mass health folks. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but those in the health connector as well. There's going to be more protection, more funding available so that nobody's losing their coverage, and they're going to be getting whatever the care they need under mass health. And finally, the MBTA has come out with some revisions to what they're doing. First of all, they've now limited restoration of the ferry service. The ferry service was shut down, but now it's limited from Hingham to Charlestown. There's also, they're looking at the commuter rail, some changes with the commuter rail as well, and also rear door boarding for other rail services. Ride passengers limited to no more than 2 persons per vehicle. The reason I'm bringing all this up is there is going to be service out there for the folks that actually need it. There are folks that need to get to jobs to continue to serve all us, whatever industry they're in, to helping us. So there will be, they're trying to be as accommodating as possible, but it's not for the general public to be, heading into Boston to go sightseeing or something. So we need to be careful on how we're using all these ride services that are available. And of course, they're being cleaned and sanitized, multiple times during the day as well, to keep people safe, and we keep people from a distance as well. So that is the update from the state at this point, and we'll have some more tomorrow with regards to, I know people keep asking about the election that's coming up. We'll have more information on that tomorrow.
Thank you. That is Representative Matthew Muratore. And you heard that he was answering some questions that had been asked yesterday. So that's one of the things that we will do. If we can't answer your question today, we'll get back to you the next day. And so give us your questions at PlymouthInfo@pactv.org. We have a number of questions. I'd like to go back first to Ken, and anyone else can chime in. But first question, is there anything the town can do to assist in procuring necessities for Plymouth residents, including hand sanitizer and paper goods? The concern of this person was that the daily driving to stores in search of these items might be contrary to the request for social distancing and to stay at home. Ken, what would you respond?
It is perfectly okay to go to the store. Right now, there isn't a shutdown of our streets and movement from our homes, so that you can go out. What we're asking is, when you do, be respectful of that distance between yourself and someone else. It takes a little bit of work to do that. And especially if someone gets closer, you just say, well, let's maintain that space between us. Right now, there is no restriction of people going outside their home. So if you need something, you can certainly get into your car and go and get it. We ask that maybe when you do go out, make sure that you have a list, so that when you're out, you can get it done, and you won't have to, as I think I'm very guilty of, you get out and said, oh, forgot the bread, got to go back and get it. But we're just saying to folks, make the trip worthwhile, and also at the same time, help your neighbors. A couple of days ago, one of the colleagues on the Board of Selectmen was talking to me on the phone and said, I'm going to be close to your neighborhood, and I'm stopping in the store. Is there anything you need? I thought that was great. That someone, thought of our household and was going to make it easier for us. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. That's Ken Tavares, and he is the chair of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen. We're going to go to Reverend Bill McCoy. Bill, one of the callers was interested in knowing, when you mentioned your particular group in which you're involved for support of victims, are you located locally to the Plymouth area?
Yes, we have an office in Plymouth, And we also have an office in Brockton. But again, to call South Shore Resource and Advocacy Center would be the way to learn more information about that.
Thank you. And going to Dr. Fry, Russ, one of the questions that we had for you would be, can you give us any tips on how to deal with anxiety at this time?
Sure, a whole bunch of them. Anxiety is an energy that's fear-based. And so if one has a great deal of anxiety, the neurotransmitters alarm us to do one of two things: flee or fight. One of those two things. I don't know if I'm coming through verbally or...
Yes.
Is it coming through?
Yes, we are.
So with anxiety and fear, that's what we're experiencing in terms of flight. Now, part of that is the social isolation. Part of that is not getting too close to people. Part of that, sadly, now we don't go to work. Kids can't go to school. So we have all this emotional energy, but no place to put it. So the anxiety of fear makes us withdraw. The anxiety based on flight makes us want to go out and, kill the dragon or get the mammoth woolly. Those are all very primitive reactions that we have in terms of our fearful behavior. We try to eliminate it or we try to run away from it. I think domestically, we're all in a sort of a silent, quiet down position where we have to maintain less contact with the people we love, less contact with the people we work with, less contact with the people at church or other groups and organizations. Some of that is going to create some panic only in the sense that, will these relationships be able to be restored? So I think there's a quelling of where our lifestyles have had to really soften our needs to be around people, to care for people, to go to work and take care of those people. I would suggest that the activities at home are not work-based, but they should be more play-based. If we learn from our children and our children learn through play, and we have a great deal of anxiety and not sure what to do with that energy, it would seem to me, as Ken is saying, go outside and talk to somebody at a safe distance, hit a ball against the wall, just go for a walk, go for a hike, smell some fresh air, listen to the birds. It's all what's happening in the moment is that reality of mindfulness. When we start moving our mind into what's the worst thing that could happen, we lose a sense of touch and we lose a sense of that ongoing reality. So the anxiety is normal. These situations are abnormal. Usually people say that my feelings are abnormal under this sort of typical normal behavior. So whatever we're experiencing, whether it's happy or sad or mad or glad, it's all under this auspices of this dreaded illness that we really have to be serious about. So anxiety is not a bad thing to have. It gets us away from or gets us to produce some benefit, change in behavior.
Thank you. That was Dr. Russell Fry, who will be with us. Sounds like he wants us to get in shape and get some exercise. But Michelle, you've been with us before, and we keep hearing about isolation. We keep hearing about we need to do distancing, but then people, particularly our seniors, feel isolated. And I know that when we had the school department with us, they were reminding us that families with children can go to the hedge school and get lunches for free. With respect to our seniors, what about the Meals on Wheels? I know you've told us before, but can you remind us what's available to seniors with respect to that and to help them with their isolation?
Sure, Steve. So Meals on Wheels is a program. It's run through Old Colony Elder Services here in Plymouth. And as I had mentioned, we have approximately 140 to 160 seniors a day receiving very nutritious and healthy meals. Part of, it's interesting because part of the Meals on Wheels program is truly designed to, yes, provide a meal, but also to do a well check for those seniors that may be socially isolated and don't get out on a normal circumstance day, take out the health crisis that we have. So it's really important that we continue that program. And there are new rules in place. Social distancing is not just for the general public. For For those volunteers that go out there and do deliver those meals, we've encouraged them to practice social distancing. There are new policies in which we need our volunteers to knock on the door, step back 6 feet, but we can still have a conversation. We can still smile, we can still engage. Just because we're 6 feet apart has nothing to do with engagement and knocking on a door and knowing we care. Even my sending out a phone call, they hear a voice, they know we're here. They know that even though this is a very unique and difficult time, there are barriers to engaging, but we can overcome them. People can call us still. If they want to do a call and hear our voice, I'm more than willing to talk to anybody. So is our staff here at Center for Active Living. So 508-830-4230. I will return your call. We are listening to our voicemails. But for those that are at risk that don't truly have anything, I need and want the neighbors in this town, people in this town, to reach out, call your neighbor, check on your elderly neighbor. Are they okay? Do they need anything? I don't have all the answers, but I promise that if they do need something, we're going to find it. We're going to find a way to get it to them.
And that was Michelle Bratti. She is the Director of Elder Affairs. We're now going to go back to Steve Cole, who is the Executive Director for the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. And Steve, the question that we have has to do with the drive-through restaurants, such as a donut shop. The caller wants to know, is this like a petri dish? Can it possibly be healthy if you're exchanging cash? Now, I would just say, my own experience has been that when I've been going to drive-thrus the past few days, they've been extending out the credit card machine. You put your credit card in, and then you get it out. So I haven't had any contact other than receiving maybe a bag from someone. But what can you say to help comfort people who might be concerned about the business takeout planning that's been going on?
Well, I think that's a fair point. I think right now consumers need to be educated about what is the right behavior to exhibit right now in the marketplace. Businesses, especially those who can pivot, they're also as much questioning what's the kind of behavior that they should be offering at the level of services or products they should be offering. There's a number of restaurants that have started focusing in downtown, especially on doing takeout, and I understand they're doing quite well. The chamber has done the yeoman's work pulling together a bit of a brochure for all those restaurants that are doing takeout and strongly encouraging folks to patronize those businesses. There were some folks who were even earlier on unsure whether or not their style of business, because it was a bit of a higher end style of restaurant, was even capable of pivoting. And look, there's no shortage of entrepreneurial activity that's happening here in Plymouth. I think for the most part, because of low unemployment rates, we haven't seen as much robustness in the entrepreneurial activity or the startup of businesses. But look, that restaurants are able to pivot, and that we also see, as I mentioned, those local numbers that while the rest of the nation was 50% down in restaurant sales, we were down 13%. Now, it's tough to tell a small business owner, especially a restaurateur, that it's only 13%. But I think there's something demonstrative here about the community. Something I've learned in my time here is if you're going to be a successful business owner, you need the support of the community, which means you really do need to participate and be a good corporate neighbor in the community so that folks know who you are. This is a place, Plymouth, that frankly, I'm encouraged. If I was going to be anywhere else while this kind of a crisis were to occur, it is Plymouth that I think is going to come through this thing the best of any place I've ever worked. And that's frankly a statement or a testament to how well we pulled together as a community. Michelle was just kind of even talking about the importance of food delivery. I don't think we oftentimes give enough credence to food and food science and the economy and culture that can develop around foods in restaurants. I think it's incumbent on us to participate safely in the economy, as the chairman had suggested earlier, but it's also incumbent on us to continue to participate as best we can. So it's not my role to encourage or discourage folks to do things that they're not comfortable with. I'll leave that to the health experts. But I will tell you that we're in a good position to be able to weather this better than most other parts of the country based on some of the information we've seen so far. But it requires all of us to follow the instructions we're given about how to participate safely in this economy.
Thank you, Steve. And Representative Matthew Muratore, yesterday you were telling us about a town hall that will be available today with the Massachusetts Department of Unemployment Assistance. We're going to put that graph back up and again remind the people who are watching what are these town halls, and the first one is kicking off today, this afternoon.
Yeah, it's today, excuse me, it's today at 3:30, Steve. And we're encouraging people to go on. You need to register for these virtual town halls, but they're going to be giving you all sorts of information about unemployment, and they're going to be happening all week long. So if you can't make today, please be sure to try to get on one of these. I will answer a lot of your questions. I also want to go back to the question about the hand sanitizer and other needed supplies that the chairman Tavares talked about. And just say that things like hand sanitizers, we really need to be getting those to our healthcare providers and our first responders and people that really need those. This is a problem. These supplies are a problem nationwide. They're just not a problem in Plymouth. It's not something Plymouth can just do, the Commonwealth can just do, or the nation can just do. We just continue to ask people when you are going to the grocery stores, please don't take more than what you need. I know toilet paper is in high demand. That's because last week people went out and in a lot of cases, I heard that somebody took 1,000 rolls, you know, and the stores don't have them. So please start sharing with folks. But keep in mind, if there is a national shutdown, the grocery stores will not be closing. You're still able to go to the grocery stores and get what you need. So with that too, there's also a command center that is set up through the Commonwealth under the governor, headed by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Mary Lou Sutters. And all these type of supply issues are being brought to their attention. They know where they are. They know who needs what. And then that's why some of the reason the National Guard was brought in as well to actually help with distribution of a lot of the supplies. So just hang in there. Try not to please hoard. And if you do find toilet paper, just take what you need for a week or two, as you normally would. Not something that's going to last 2 or 3 months. Also, we just got an update from the governor with regard to the islands. We are close to the Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. There's now, obviously, I think you may have all read today, there's going to be limited services to the islands starting today, but that is really for essential folks only. And it's really going to be for people that need to come back and forth. If you have a second home on one of the islands, please don't go over there just to check on your property or take a walk over there. Please try to keep those ferries because they are going to be limited and they are needed for the people that actually live on those islands and the people that need to get back and forth on. And finally, just a follow up on the comment I made about the hospitals, looking at the governor looking at closed facilities such as nursing facilities. The time frame to actually set up a hospital like that using the National Guard, using the Army Corps is about 2 to 3 weeks. So planning is already in place for that so that if we do see a point that we are getting overwhelmed, we'll be able to smoothly transition into other facilities.
Thank you. That was Representative Matthew Muratore. The next question that we have, are there any provisions being made for people who have real estate closings scheduled within the next few weeks? And actually, that's a great segue for our lineup tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be hearing from John Buckley, the Register of the Plymouth County, as well as Police Chief Michael Botieri, District Attorney Tim Cruz. But with respect to this question, I would tell you that there is still the opportunity to do what's called electronic recording. So we don't actually have to go into the Registry of Deeds in order to complete a real estate closing. And thinking about what Matt just said, the only exceptions this past week were the islands, but every other registry has been open for recording, and there's been also some changes in the requirements for a smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector certificate. You'll be hearing more of that tomorrow, and at this time we're going to go through our panel one last time for your final thoughts, a few words that you'd like to leave with people who are watching today. I'd like to begin with Reverend Bill McCoy. Bill, what would you like people to remember today as they leave about what our response is to this time with the coronavirus.
Well, I especially like what Dr. Fry had to say. I would add to it, one thing you don't want to do is news binge. I think there's so much on the air about this this pandemic. It's important to get away from it and engage in playful activities. Watch a funny movie, read a book you've been meaning to read, get outside. You can consult readings from Scripture. The Psalms are wonderful places to find solace and reassurance. An opportunity for prayer like there never was. And above all, I think to trust in the God that you believe in and rely on the God's compassion in everything you do and all that you're up against.
That was Reverend Bill McCoy. Dr. Fry, your final thoughts.
Much of the same. Take care of your neighbors, take care of yourself, and take care of your family. I think the idea of group meetings, AA, for example, support groups can still happen over the phone or these modern conveniences. It's important to stay grounded in terms of what you are thinking and feeling and realizing, hopefully, that this crisis is going to pass over time and we get back to some degree of normality. And so I think we just have to be cognizant and mindful that these are difficult times with difficult emotions that are not going to immediately go away. So take care of one another.
Thank you, Dr. Russ Fry. Next, going to Michelle Bratti. Michelle, what would you like us to remember?
Well, Steve, I think the people in Plymouth need to understand, and I'm speaking to everyone, but particularly the elders, you are resilient. You actually have weathered and lived through more things than most of us. And you're better for it. You've taught us how to do some pretty incredible things with your knowledge and experiences. So it is about taking care of the elder population in this particular crisis, particularly since they are at risk, but we can learn quite a few things from them as well. They're valuable, your voice is valuable. So share with one another, check on your elder neighbor. That is important, but listen to them too, because they have something to say. They can teach us. Make sure that if there is somebody in need, an elder at risk, please reach out. You can do your part by practicing social distancing, but people want to help. Look around you, take care of one another, pay it forward, and make sure we will all as a community get through this.
Thank you, Michelle Bratti, Director of Elder Affairs. We're going to go to Steve Cole, again, the Executive Director for the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. Steve, each day we've had someone from the business community, from the Chamber of Commerce. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I think in times like this, there is an opportunity for new things, for new industries, new businesses. Massachusetts has been fortunate in some ways to have a very low unemployment rate, 0.8% unemployment. Look, businesses exist to solve problems, right? And I think many problems are now becoming evident to a lot of us on a local level, national level, certainly. I'm encouraged by numbers coming out of Babson College and University of London through their Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. Even before all of this, half of adults in 75% of the world's countries were reporting that they felt confident they had the skill set to be able to start a business. 65% is what was coming out of the United States at that same time. And what's more, over the last, say, 10 years, the gap between the ratio between female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs is close as it's ever been. There are 9 female entrepreneurs self-identified for every 10 male entrepreneurs. And that's up from seven female entrepreneurs for every 10 male entrepreneurs in 2018. So we're seeing a lot of movement, especially when you consider why people might start a business or a company. A lot of it is purpose-driven. We see blue economy certainly starting to percolate a bit in our area. That includes aquaculture, aquabotics, certainly conservation efforts. I think we'll see a bit of an explosion in that kind of activity. But what's more necessity-based is usually what kind of causes folks to engage in some kind of entrepreneurial activity. I don't think anyone should sugarcoat this. Unemployment will happen as a result of this, especially as supply chains start to collapse. We will see increased unemployment. Goldman Sachs suggested that nationally we might see it encroach as close as 9%. Historically, we have a low unemployment rate in the Southeast, but it's also because we do things that are supplemental to our income. And I think there's already that undercurrent of entrepreneurship that's already there. So I'll leave you with a positive note. I think we'll see lots of opportunities for folks to start new types of businesses to solve these kinds of problems that are now becoming evident.
Thank you. That was Steve Cole and Representative Matthew Muratore. A quick positive note from you as we conclude.
Sure. I just want to remind people on a couple of things. First of all, to be sure to, if you're able to go to a local restaurants to help them out, but also to help you and your family as well. There's ways that they are delivering now the food, or you can pick it up, or there are programs such as Instacart that I'm being told of by one of our select board members. DoorDash is available as well, so you can get these foods and get them delivered to you as well. So please help out our restaurants and help out the community, the business community. I think I do want to once again just thank PACTV for the job that they're doing for our community to really be able to get out the message to people. It's great to see that we have such a wonderful mass access television station here in Plymouth that does some great work. So we thank them for that too. We also need to, again, keep in mind, thank you to our healthcare workers and our first responders and our correctional officers and people that are working in grocery stores and people that are picking up our trash and people that are still working in banks and still keeping things going. Daycare providers, we owe them a great deal of gratitude, and we need to keep thanking them as we move forward. And we will get through this as a town, as a Commonwealth, and as a nation, as a world. We will get through this, and we will get through this stronger than ever. So please keep taking care of each other. Keep social distancing, but not social isolation.
Thank you, Representative Matthew Muratore. We're going to now return to our opening speaker. Once again, final thoughts from Ken Tavares, who is the chair of the Board of Selectmen. Ken.
Thank you, Steve. I probably should just say ditto to everything that has just been said by the speakers. Thank you all for being here today. Your words are encouraging, and I think fit well in what we're trying to do. As we all realize, there have been many changes in the last week that we never imagined at the end of last year. But I think we're doing them well. And we just need to stay together and be mindful of everyone around us. I encourage people to retire to their quiet spot. Do something, as Reverend McCoy said, that brings you pleasure. That can be quiet reflection, listening to music, writing. Do something that will relax your mind. You're entitled to it. We will get through this. We are preparing daily. I also want to provide a shout out to the restaurants. I know there are more and more people that are using them. They certainly have a certain amount of risk by keeping their restaurants and their kitchens open. And please be cooperative and patient with our restaurants. With that, thank you. Go out sometime today, keep that distance. And a reminder that the skateboard park is closed, as well as all the basketball courts. Again, we're doing that for safety, not to impose restrictions that seem to be unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken Tavares. And thank you to all our guests, to Reverend Bill McCoy, to Dr. Russell Fry, to Steve Cole, to Michelle Bratti, and certainly Ken and Matt, who have joined me each day. And tomorrow, when we are together, we'll also be joined by Police Chief Michael Botieri, Plymouth County District Attorney Tim Cruz, Plymouth County Register of Deeds John Buckley. This is coming to you live each day at 12 noon on PACTV. I'm Steve Triffletti, Plymouth Town Moderator. Good day and thank you.
Thank you.